Greetings, fellow figure fans. Now, I know I did promise you the King Ghidorah review. Apologies, that is going to be happening nearer Halloween. But in the meantime, hopefully this will associate your thirst for figure goodness. I'd like to reintroduce you to an old friend that I've just recently reacquired in my collection after a long period of time. This is threezero's Ghost in the Shell, the major figure. We all know who this is when it comes to the lore. We know this is Motoko. We know who it's supposed to be. Obviously, the film version differs quite a bit. They explain that in the film. I think they did actually quite a good job of how they explained it in the film, why she looks different, the whole, shell issue. But we're not going to get into the lore or the fact of, the whole, oh, well, they're whitewashed. We're not going to get into that. We're here for the figures. So, threezero's effort for the major, as named in the box, not bad at all. It was one of my favourite figures when I had her before. Now she's back in the collections because she's kind of back up there again. It's just a shame threezero have a tendency to kind of, how can I put it politely? Some figures, they get really spot on with their head sculpts. Others quite not so much. Now originally when everyone saw the prototype photos for the head sculpt, we're all blown away because it looked really awesome. But as you can see from the picture, not quite like the prototype at all. But not a bad effort. It is plastic hair. It is what it is. We all know what happens when it comes to plastic hair. threezero are not only guilty of this, other companies have done it too. I understand it can be, budgetary issues and things like that, why they prefer sculpted hair instead of doing, the little wig or something, time and effort. But considering you can go out there and get a third-party head that kind of does have the hairstyle that you need and tailor it to your needs, kind of is a kick in the teeth. But that head is so rare, it can almost cost the same amount as this figure. The complete set is ridiculous. Now, when it comes to the original release of this, you had this version, as well as the deluxe pack, and the deluxe pack gave you the civilian outfit for her. So technically, I'm assuming you can undress the figure. It's just, I don't want to mess with it too much. I was thinking about upgrading the body, but like I said, I don't want to touch it. Admittedly, you can take this off and other parts off, so I'm assuming you can, but me being me, like I said, I'm not going to mess with it. Although looking at the bulletproof vest she's got on her now, where it's actually kind of baggy, I suppose you could. There would be room for it, but like I said, I'm not going to mess with it too much. Now when it comes to the body, standard threezero fare, it's got some nice, not too soft, not too hard joints. The armour pieces and everything itself are actually quite flexible. The clothing looks really good, and it's weathered really quite nicely, although you don't have the flexibility that you would do in this pose, for instance. I haven't managed to get mine there, nor do I want to stress the joints and the clothing too much to the point they rip, because like I said, these figures are so rare, prices can be ridiculous, so to have one back in the collection is pretty cool. Now she does come with some cool accessories. She does come with a machine pistol and a rifle from the film, but they're currently in the box. There's no flip panel or anything on the box. That's the back of the box with a really nice shiny logo. But basically the box opens from the top. There's no flip panel so you can see what's inside or anything like that, which is kind of a shame, but it's not really a deal breaker. But as you can see just from a museum pose, it's not too bad. Now when we get to the actual likeness of ScarJo herself, if I just move this in, we'll try and focus a little bit. It's kind of hit and miss. They did really try. I'll commend them on their effort. You can see Scarlet's in there, but the problem is you can only see Scarlet's in there, not like with a third party head, but you can go, oh, that's Scarlet. This one is kind of like, oh, I see she's in there. Maybe it's because of the plastic hair, I'm not sure, but it is what it is. It's just a shame the figure's so rare now that, it's like from that angle, you can see she's there. You can see it's her. A lot of people have repainted the face sculpt on this to make it look more like her, and I will say I commend them on their painting efforts because they have done a really good job. It's just unfortunate when it comes to this figure itself that the head sculpt and the body is really small in comparison to when it comes to what you'd use for customs or even the Hot Toys body itself from the Black Widow figures. For some reason this is amazingly small. I don't really get what they were going for. I think originally this figure was supposed to scale in line with other figures that they were going to do in the series, so it would have scaled with the Chief, Batu, the Geishas, whatever they were going to do down the line. Unfortunately, they never did them. As far as I know, this is the only figure from Ghost in the Shell that threezero ever did. We don't have any others from the set. So, to make a figure that's in scale with the rest is kind of meh. Because now it doesn't scale with the rest of your collection if you want to have it in other anime things. I mean, I'll grab another... Oh, I'll tell you what. I will grab another figure and I will show you. One moment. Now, obviously this isn't another Scarlett Johansson figure. This is a custom figure using a TB League, seamless face and body. But you can quite see the size difference that you would have with the bodies. The TB League, pretty much the same size as, the true types that Hot Toys use. So when it comes to, what threezero decided to use for their body, you can see she's a vastly different, smaller scale. So I personally think she was scaled for other figures in the line. It's just unfortunate that we didn't get any other figures in the line. But anyway, comparison of sizes out the way. As you can see the size difference. Let's get back to articulation and clothing on the Major herself. So when it comes to the clothing and the articulation stuff for the body, it's not too bad a body. It's just, like I said, it just boggles the mind. It's a smaller scale. The clothing itself, I've got to say, is actually pretty exquisite. If I just take off her head, and I'll take this off just to show you the clothing. Clothing-wise, just pop her head back on. Clothing-wise, they've done a really nice effort. Everything feels nice and natural. It doesn't feel too horrible to the touch. When it comes to articulation, she's got some nice movement in the arms. She's actually pretty stiff still when it... See, you hear the click? She's actually pretty stiff when it comes to the joints. So you can get some nice poses when it comes to this figure in general, and it is a really, really nice effort. It's just like I said, when it comes to posing stuff, you just need to work with the clothing it's in. So I know, for instance, this one isn't really going to do too much in the leg department, so I'm not going to push it too far. I'm not going to try and get too many extreme poses and bends out the legs. I'm not going to try and, shove a leg too far up this way. But overall, like I said, when it comes to the armor pieces, they don't feel too flimsy, even though they feel it. The gun aesthetics and stuff, and the paint jobs and the weathering on the clothing itself is actually really, really nicely done, especially when it comes to the boots and sneakers. I say it's just one of those things. It's just personal aesthetics, and I think when it comes to the weathering and the clothing, they've done really well. It's just the figure itself and the body is on a really, really small frame. It's just really, really titchy, but the detail and everything and the effort they have, that they have put into the figure, I think is not too bad in general. It's just a shame, and this was the final product that we ended up with compared to, what we got in the promo shots. So you can say it can be hit and miss. So if this is one for your personal collection that you're thinking of getting, I definitely highly recommend it. But me personally, out of the two, I would probably go for more of the third party, I forget the name of the company that did, but you got CT Toys, I think it was Cat Toys that did one, as well as another company that did a full figure, but they're just so ridiculously priced. Like I said, the head sculpts can cost literally what this whole figure does. But if you were going to get any figure from this set, considering there's only two, the Major and the deluxe version, I would probably use that extra bit of money that you would have as a collector if you're going to buy something and get the deluxe pack if one ever turns up on the market, because I think the additional clothing probably make it more feel, a bit better. And if you can get hold of another, figure, or even if someone's parted one out on another head sculpt, you could have, the armoured version, which you have in front of you here, as well as the civvy version right next to it. I'd love to make a Batu, or maybe some of the other figures from the line, but unfortunately they're all going to be custom jobbies, and as we all know, when it comes to customs and getting hold of people to 3D print stuff and that, 9 times out of 10 we won't have issues, but the prices can just be so astronomical. What's the point? That's what ended up happening with my Witcher figure I was doing. I got a lady to do the head for me, which was cool in itself. It was a first attempt to try and do a male figure. She repainted the head sculpt quite nicely, did the eyes very well, but after 2 years of waiting to try and source the armour and stuff, it just never happened, and in the end I ended up kind of discovering she actually made a few mistakes on the head sculpt, which is not what you want to hear after you pay nearly £100 for someone to customise something. So I kind of do feel meh now about the whole situation. It's just money lost, I think, on my Witcher. So now he is Geralt of Planet Rivia. He's now dressed as a Jedi, holding a lightsaber. I resorted his hair out. So yeah, just be careful not to fall into the custom trap, because as we know, bodies, parts and coats and things, they can all cost a pretty penny. I mean, if this ever pops up on the market, it can be up to £40 alone just for this. So, yeah, just be careful not to fall, into the custom trap. Know your limitations, budget accordingly. But if you've got enough money and you just want the full figure, which I eventually ended up doing again because I was going to do a Ghost in the Shell custom, using obviously this version of the Major. Not this figure, but this version of the Major from the film. I just couldn't find a head sculpt anywhere, and anyone who had the Cat Toys one were pretty much asking the same price that it would have been for this full figure. So in the end, I was just like, putting it bluntly, bollocks to it, I'll buy the figure. And lo and behold, boom, the figure is back. Anyway, hopefully you'll have a nice time wherever you are. Hopefully you're all staying safe. I've got to go because I've got a few more things to sort out, because unfortunately we've had a bit of figure catastrophe today. One of my cats has decided to run into the cabinet and has finally killed off Captain America, my Hot Toys one. Not too serious damage, unfortunately. In the fall, the head sculpt hasn't been damaged, the shield's perfectly fine, the body's still okay, but somehow it's detached the belt and unbonded it. So literally parts of his belt are now everywhere, and yeah, I can't really review him now like I planned, because I'd have to muck about with the belt and other stuff, and I think it's easier for me just to sell cap on now and get rid of him. But later in the day I'll go into customs, so hopefully there's a few things I can go over and give you some hints and tips what you can use for bodies, where you can search for head sculpts and things. But anyway, if you like this figure, definitely buy it. If it's more of a thing of a for you, it's no problem. Like I said, I want to do candid reviews on my figures. As much as I love this figure, I won't be shy and say the head sculpt is a bit meh. The height of the figure's a bit meh. If we got the other figures down the line, I'd understand the scale. But it's just, to me, the scale just feels off. So maybe one day, if I am feeling adventurous enough, I'll try and take all the clothing off and maybe upgrade to something with a bit of a longer neck and a bit of a larger frame, so to speak. That's a bit more to ScarJo's proportions, like I have on my Black Widow custom, which was a medium bust Thyssen suntan type, which actually replicates her physique actually quite well. So if I can get that working on this, we'll see. I'll give you an update maybe in the future if I do. But until then, we'll see what happens. Anyway, have a nice time wherever you are. Catch you all real soon.